Good evening and welcome to Going for Two. This is the only YouTube podcast in human recorded history to feature a male and female host drinking our way through the important topics of the day, as long as they touch the football world and not in that way. I had a football epiphany this weekend. I was going to only celebrate if my team, fantasy or otherwise, won. If they lost, shrug it off, wash that team out of my hair, that kind of thing. We had a real nice test of that feeling as Missouri lost to a meh Kentucky team, and the Titans had the Colts on the ropes before self-destructing an amazing ball of flame right in front of me.
Oh, yeah?
And we haven't even gotten into the fantasy football weekend. Hi, Sharona. Welcome
Hi.
on.
Hi, Zach.
We're
the Titans, the last 3 seasons I know, let the Colts come back from behind in rather dramatic fashion in the third quarter and lost a game.
Well, I believe 38 points were scored in the second half, and they all were scored in our end zone on our side of the field. And it really came down to first and goal at the 1, can't convert, and then having Andrew Luck, I think, throw 2 50-yard passes on 3rd and 20. And I think it was a 15-minute time period. The Titans went from winning 27-14 to losing 35-27. But they got to twist the knife a little bit with that finish by scoring the touchdown at the end, and then having the brain fart of let's run the same double fullback play we've done 3 times. And they got half the distance, too, in total. I think somebody broke down that 2-point conversion. It was like one of our offensive linemen failed the block. One of our offensive linemen tripped as he was trying to pull.
Was that Chance Warmack?
Well, he was injured, so it was his backup. And our backup defensive end that we decided is a blocking fullback didn't block anybody. So
Carl Klug.
The best part was poor Jason Fowler was running backwards 10 yards on a 2-point conversion.
It was all the Benny Hill music. I mean, it was all of it. I'm sure somewhere out there you can find it set to Benny Hill music because I was like, oh dear.
Yeah, there hasn't been. I mean, the last few years have been really blah, so at least it was an interesting opener, but it was one of those ones, all the Colts fans that were there were super overconfident because they're bastards who got Peyton Manning and Andrew Luck and, born on third base, thought they hit a triple kind of thing, and they had to come back and win because, now the entire AFC South is 1-2, and, hey, we're the NFC South from last year. Yay!
It really is. Legitimately. What was the record of the team that made the playoffs in the NFC South last year? 6 or 7? Was it 7 wins?
The Panthers were 7-8-1, so they had to win a playoff game to get to 500.
Okay.
Although it's odd, I think there's only been one team in NFL history that's gone to the playoffs with a losing or 500 record that hasn't won a game. They always seem to win a game. But yeah, I bought a super nosebleed ticket, paid out the nose for it. And then I met with Josh Gunnels of the Music City Miracles.
How's Josh doing?
And a friend of his had an extra club seat ticket they just gave to me. So, although I did abandon him after the first quarter. Mr. Gunnels is good. I don't know if he's got more kids because it seems like they just grow. He's got 3 kids, and he showed up for the game.
Okay.
We didn't actually eat.
I think he has had another one. I don't ever see him on Twitter anymore.
Not so much. I think he's rather busy because Nashville is the city of cranes now. I mean, there's just construction everywhere, so it's booming.
Booming.
One thing
that
happened at the game that surprised me is it was the first non-sellout by the Titans in their Nashville history. And so I don't know if that means they have to move back to Houston next week or what, because I think they promised Bud Adams 20 years. But I guess since Bud isn't here, they had their fingers crossed, right? But, there were plenty of games last year that were actually quote-unquote sellouts, and there were plenty of people not there. So I think everybody was accounted for. Plus, we got T-shirts.
find a t-shirt. I want to see your t-shirt.
Oh, I don't have it. This isn't it. This is a different shirt. It's basically keep calm and tighten on, because when you're an NFL team, you have to use something that's like 4 years old. So that's all you have. I guess it's better than code blue. Maybe blue shirts cost more. I don't know.
Oh yeah. I always sort of kind of like the. They were big, and they were, fairly good. Oh shoot.
Well, I have probably 2 or 3 of those shirts, because I don't think they did it last year, but they did it a few times. I don't even know if they've ever won with code blue. It is a bit of a college thing, but hey, Nashville's got plenty of college football fans, so they're not going to be lost in the wear certain colors fiasco. Yeah, so if you were a University of Tennessee fan or a Tennessee Titans fan, you got to watch 2 days in a row of blowing a 27-14 lead.
It is pretty amazing how often the fortunes of the Vols and the Titans seem linked, and that they do lose in similar fashion.
Well, the Vols have had a rough, I don't know, like 7 or 8 years. Before that, they're playing for conference titles pretty often, so things have changed. It's just the way. I mean, with the Titans, they did kick a field goal from the 2, but they couldn't punch it in from the 1. So they made it 27-14 with a field goal, but the Tennessee Vols made it 27-14 with a touchdown, and the coach didn't go for 2. And he tried to, I don't know, it was weird. I didn't actually hear much of that, because I know when it comes to SEC fandom, it pretty much gets cranked up to about 50. Pretty much everybody was like, Butch Jones, see you, and take your bricks with you.
It is entirely possible that there were some fans that wanted Butch Jones fired that were not in my timeline. Most of the fans that I follow are pretty reasonable. He's not getting fired, even though I'm concerned that I haven't seen much improvement in the coaching performance. But he's not getting fired. Emory's about to join us, and we talked about this. We're talking about the Tennessee-Florida game, Emory. I would like to see some improvement in X's and O's from Butch Jones, but yeah, it was pretty much a full meltdown from the fan base. Starting, I tweeted out. I broke my no tweeting ban, and I tweeted out toward the end of the third quarter. I think Tennessee had just scored, and I said, yeah, I would feel a lot better about it. There was like 6 minutes left in the third quarter, and I said I would feel a lot better about this game if it was the fourth quarter, and yeah,
Interesting. So welcome aboard, Emory.
Sorry, I'm late. I had a little issues with the link, but glad I'm here. Thanks for having me on, guys.
No worries at all. We were just sitting here chit-chatting. Thanks for joining us, by the way. Emory was with me this morning on my podcast, so I appreciate him taking the time out to spend some time with me twice a day. I know I can be a little bit.
Nah, you're good.
It's been a while since we've been to each other. I was telling Zach that we run into each other. It seems like at least once a year. Was it last year in Canton?
No, last year was in Canton. This year was
at the draft.
Play 60, right?
Yeah, Play 60. Yeah, that was a nice event.
Right, it was. It's always good to see guys like out their element and playing with the kids, and it means the world to those kids.
Yeah.
Those kids eventually grow up to be these players or successful people, and they remember those moments.
Yeah, it was a nice event, and I'll tell he gets a lot of criticism, and I criticize him a lot. But it was a nice opportunity to be around Roger Goodell and see that side of him. I found him to be very personable, and he handled. Did you have a chance to see him try to do the thing where the air was like air diving, or I forget what they call it?
Nah, I missed that.
It was pretty funny. But anyway, yeah. So tell everybody a little bit. I'm sorry, my puppy dog is having a little issue. Tell everybody who you are out there.
Well, I'm the CEO, founder, and analyst at Football Game Plan, where we break down everything from NFL to high school football, women's tackle football. If it involves a pigskin, we cover it.
Awesome, awesome.
It's pretty impressive. So, can you talk about your like history of being a coach and a player, and kind of how it helps you analyze football and love it more?
Well, I played collegiately at the. I don't want to say it, so I'm gonna say it how we like to take off La Tech in Louisiana State. I played at University of Louisiana. I was about to say Louisiana Lafayette, but we don't call it that no more. Call it the University of Louisiana, and it pisses off everybody from La Tech to UL Monroe to LSU. So I was
Isn't that where Dooley came from?
Who?
Tennessee.
He was Louisiana Tech, I think.
He was La Tech. Yeah, he was La Tech.
Yeah.
You know, but one of my coaches actually played at University of Tennessee. Kerry Bailey. He was a defensive tackle.
Oh, okay.
You know,
I don't know that name, but I don't remember every guy.
Yeah, this was back in from like 88 to 91.
Okay.
He's now the D-line coach at Lamar. So I played at UL. Career was cut short because of injury. So after my career was done and I finished school, I went back and coached at my old high school in New Orleans. I coached at McMain High School, and I was thinking I had like 2 or 3 college offers to go and coach on a collegiate level, but I was afraid to take the jump. I was like, I don't know if I want to leave, or I don't know. Lo and behold, about 2 months later, Katrina hit, so I had no choice, but to leave. So I moved. It was either here. It was either in New York City area or Southwest Missouri. So I was like, I'm going to New York City area. And so I've been up here since '05. But coaching and playing, it was so funny. I was so involved with football as far as from a player perspective. Once I got hurt, I actually learned the game more. And credit to the coaching staff at UL, because I came in as a running back, and all I did was just focus on running back, focus on running back. And once I got hurt, I was still trying to figure out what the hell I was going to do. Now, coach still had me, working out and stuff like that, but he was like, listen, we're going to have you help out with recruiting. We're going to have you help out with these scouting reports. And so seeing things from a different perspective actually helped me learn the game more, because I only saw it from one way. I only knew the running back position. I didn't know defenses. I didn't know fronts. I didn't know all that stuff. I just took it for granted. So having that broader scope from a player perspective, and then going into coaching, which was something totally different, because you tend to coach people thinking, I had to learn that right away. You tend to try to coach people like they already should know things. Like, why are you not catching the ball with one hand? With one hand. I caught it with one hand, but then you got to realize they're not you. And so it's like, then I got to really teach these guys. And that was something I had to learn too. So it broke me down again from a teaching perspective. So having that knowledge of understanding what's going on from a wide range, and also having to know how to teach, kind of like mesh together and kind of form the guy I am now as far as what I do with football.
What year in college were you when you got hurt?
I was a sophomore.
Oh.
And I tore my ACL, MCL, and PCL.
Oh, my goodness.
On the same knee. I tore my ACL in high school. I was a receiver, actually.
Okay.
I used to think I was Desmond Howard, right? I love Desmond Rocket Ishmael. And I tore my ACL my sophomore year in high school. And I came back. I gained 30 pounds. I was 185, then I came back 215. It was like, you're not playing wide receiver no more. They moved me to the running back. But I still had the receiver skills, which made me unique, which made me attractive to recruiters and stuff like that. But so that type of versatility was big for me. But yeah, I was a sophomore in college when it happened.
Interesting. One of the things that we see being discussed right now in the National Football League is that, and I know that it's hard, but there's a question how much guys are coming into the league knowing, not just from quarterbacks, but other skill positions. You see defensive backs talk about it. I forget who it was, but it was one of the young defensive backs. I think maybe for Miami, Minnesota. But anyway, he was talking about, he had to learn technique and learn all of these different things. And how much they learn in college versus coming into the NFL, and coaches realizing that they have to do that. They have to be that guy to coach. It's kind of interesting.
It took I mean, no lie. When I was in high school, we had simple plays. It was, I formation, 34 dives, 3 back, 4 hole, easy, simple, perfect execution. I get to college, you run the same play. It was like gun, run, 15 gut check with me, and I'm like, wait, I missed the play. Like, what is the play? And he was like, no, you're aiming for the 5 hole, but if you see the 3 or the 1, I'm like, yo, this makes no sense. I didn't really understand zone blocking until he had to explain, like, okay, we're telling you to go to the 5, but if you see 1 or 3 open, then you take it, or if you see 7, then take that. I'm like, yo, this doesn't make sense. And so it's a learning process, and I know it took me about a good 2 weeks to really understand cadence, to really understand audibles, and all this happening during 2 of these. I'm like, yo, I really can't grasp it. Once I got it, I started to play faster, and I became myself. But that learning curve is huge. I can only imagine it going from the college to the pros.
One of the things that I've always wondered, not always, but definitely recently wondered, is why they don't, if we recognize that maybe that's an issue, why don't they just offer it as a course? Whatever sport that you're in, not necessarily do it as part of the on-the-field stuff, but just offer it as we need to recognize that this is what it is, right? And some of the classes that we're forcing these guys to take don't necessarily make sense.
Well, the issue is because the vernacular changes. What we may call in high school, all streaks. In college, we called Rocket X, which in the pros, some people may call 90 takeoff. So it all changes. So it's tough to really narrow it down to a curriculum to where it's a standard.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think they could definitely, though, teach guys how to watch tape and the ways to identify. Because who was it? One of the young quarterbacks. Excuse me. I think he was a guy that actually came into the league undrafted, and he was talking about he hadn't watched any film, and so it was definitely a kind of a culture shock for him to have to realize that that was part of it, and he didn't know. He came into the league not even knowing how to study film. It was kind of interesting.
Because studying film is boring, to be honest. As you're a player, unless you're watching yourself, everyone hates film study because you have the coach rewinding, constantly rewinding, telling you where you messed up. Barely praising you, but telling you where you messed up. You're like, yo, I can totally go to Chick-fil-A right now. I don't want to be in here. And but when you have to watch film, you really start to notice things. I remember we were playing New Mexico State, and this one receiver kept breaking the huddle. When his number was called, he'll break the huddle quickly. He'll get to the line. He'll be tense in his stance. He's like, you pick up those things, you're like, okay, he's about to get the ball. But had we not paid attention to the film, we wouldn't know those things. But everyone hates watching film because it's so boring, it's so tedious. And when you're a college kid, you got other distractions going on. I can only imagine nowadays they have all kinds of distractions going on. I just missed the cut. I was from 99 to 02.
Okay.
So,
interesting. Crazy. Didn't mean to hijack the conversation. That's interesting.
Wasn't it like in college you only get about 20 hours a week anyway, so you don't get a lot of time to get into depth?
Right. And you know what's funny about that? I was there when we first started the 20-hour rule. I remember it was at the beginning of the 99 season, right when August ended, like when 2 days ended and the season was about to start. Coach, we had a meeting before every practice, right? So we had a team meeting. Coach came in and he was like, "Listen," he was one of the funniest coaches I've ever seen. He was an ordained minister. He used to always have a toothpick in his mouth. He came in there. He was like, "Listen, the NCAA create this new rule where we only got to practice 20 hours a week, and I left you guys got to sign off that we practice 20 hours a week. I left the form at the equipment room window, so before you go out to practice, sign the form." So they had this one dude on the team that raised his hand and was like, "But Coach, we practice more than 20 hours a week." And Coach paused. He was like, if you don't sign the paper, I'm taking you off scholarship, like he just said. He blurted that out there. So, but it was funny when that started because I guess they had to because, you know, I remember, I guess because it was 2 days, you know, no one was on campus. We were the only ones on campus, so they had you there virtually all day. But I, you know, talking to my old coaches and how they went through, you know, back like the 80s and 70s and stuff like that, it was like, yeah, you know, practice was way longer than 2 hours. So it was sorely needed because, again, when were you going to study and when were you going to have time to, but this is how funny coaches are. Like, okay, yeah, we'll practice 20 hours a week. Now you have, you know, practice was ending at about maybe 4:45, 5 o'clock, depending on when we started. And you got dinner, but you had study hall from 7 to 9. Like, man, like, so you still at practice, you know, it was sitting in study hall. So there's like, that's how they get you. But yeah, that rule was huge because now it put a lot of pressure on your Monday and Tuesday practices, especially if you were on the road. So practices were intense on Mondays and Tuesdays because of that 20-hour rule.
That's interesting.
I bet. And so how did you make the transition from kind of starting your site to kind of getting your publishing empire going and getting your books?
Well, I was I'm not was, but I still am. I'm a motivational speaker by trade.
Okay.
And so this was, you know, 05. I'm traveling throughout the Northeast and out west, speaking at schools and stuff like that. And so I used to always catch ESPN in the hotels or whatever. You see things that don't jive with how you feel, and I'm always complaining. I'm like calling my homeboy up, like, man, you heard this on ESPN? It's like stupid. So after a while, I won't say maybe, I got to the point where I'm talking to all these students each and every year, high school students, so over 1,000 students, and I keep saying the same message, like, you know, follow your dreams, pursue your passions, do whatever you want to do in life. I was like, you know, there's something I really want to do. So my degree is in communications, and I was like, well, what can I do instead of complaining about what I see on TV and what I see in print? I want to start a website. And so 07, we started a website, which was fine. You know, we had a little bit of our first month we had over like 1 million hits, right? Because we were the first place, probably the only place to predict App State beat Michigan. So people thought we were nuts, but we broke it down, you know, systematically and whatever. And so it was going fine. And then 09, I was like, you know, I think we need to take another step because I feel like print is getting stale. So that's when we started to introduce the video component of it. And yeah, I mean, if you look back, I still have all our videos, but if you look back at that first video back in 09, it looked so bootleg and cheap. But it wasn't nothing like that out there at the time, you know. And so that's how we started Football Game Plan. It kind of has blossomed into what we have now. And the book part, our first book was Stiff Arming Football Myths. We released that last year. We took like 50 myths that people like to talk about, you know, like playing at home matters, or you know, size matters, or something else that just came out today, but we talked about it well before. People think because everybody's bigger, stronger, and faster, that's what's caused all these injuries, when that's not the case. You know, it's the equipment and the supplements that people are taking is what's causing all these injuries, from our perspective. So we tackled those myths, and then today, not today, last, I'm all over the place. I would say this past July, we put out the 2 books, Football Love Story and What Did Football Teach Me?
When did you start compiling all of those interviews, though? That must have taken a pretty good while.
We started January 6th. When I went down to the FCS championship game, we conducted our first interview. It was a coach, Willie Robertson over in Germany.
Okay.
So we did that interview. He's an old teammate of mine, actually.
Okay.
He coaches now in Germany, and we talked, and he gave a great interview. And so after that, everywhere I went, you know, when we went down to the Shrine game, we spoke with Mike Singletary, spoke with Howard Mudd, and then it started snowballing from there. So we, you know, kept reaching out to guys, and the more coaches we reached out to, and they were like, man, this is right on time because football is under attack. They started telling other coaches, and so we had our inbox flooded with like requests. Some we couldn't even get to, you know, which I feel bad about. So, but that tells us we have another book coming out And a lot of times when I do those, we did those same interviews when I went on campus, when I do those football game plan university segments where I'm sitting there with the coach on the college campus, and he also hit the whiteboard with me. We interviewed there. So we was just interviewing for about a good strong 6 months. Then we had to compile and edit and transcribe all these interviews and then put them in a book. And once it came out, we were excited about it. It was awesome, and guys loved it. Like we've gotten great reviews from these coaches that were in it. Some have tweeted about it. Some have sent personal letters and things like that, which has been great. Because I think this is something that every football fan needs. Because even if you may not be a football person, just hearing like Mike Singletary told a story about how when he was 12 years old, he wrote down exactly what he wanted to do in life. After his brother died or something like that, he wrote down, I want to, go to college, become an All-American, get a scholarship, become an All-American, go to the pros, go to the Hall of Fame. Like he wrote that down, and to hear those stories, like Brett Bielema has a great story too. How tragedy happened in his life, kind of reshaped how he thought, and now he's able to tell that to his players, and it's just amazing these stories you get.
It is fun talking to guys like that and to listen to their stories. It is, to say.
Yes, I mean, and obviously everyone knows Jen Walter's story, but she told a great one, and a lot of the women tackle football players that are in the book, one is a former gang member, and how football saved her life, as far as like giving her something to focus on and getting her out of the streets, and it's just amazing. I mean, a lot of great stories and everyone kind of shares that same bond, which is the game of football.
Well, we don't want to keep you too long, Emory, so tell everybody where they can find you kind of online and how you can help people make football make sense, because I get confused.
Hey, you know what? That's a great plug right there for the site too. They can find me online at FBall Game Plan on Twitter. All of our handles, Vine, Instagram, what else we got out there? Facebook is Football Game Plan. Our YouTube
channel.
Yeah, it's youtube.com/Football Game Plan. They can hit us up there. And I'm always interacting on Twitter. If people ask questions, I don't mind answering questions at all. Because it fosters learning, I would say this though: everyone needs to go out to our website at footballgameplan.com/books and get those books.
Yep.
Take that. But what we got coming up next down the pike? We have our NFL previews coming out, but we're working on some cool things from a scouting perspective that I think people may like, coming down the pike.
Awesome. Thanks so much for joining us, Emory.
Thank you guys for having me. Sorry we went to rambling, but
No, it's great.
It's all good, and thanks for being on the show.
All right. Night.
Have a good one.
You too.
Bye.
All right, that was Emory Hunt, Mr. Football Game Plan himself. If you're not following him on Twitter, definitely get on that. He's a great football mind.
No, I forgot to mention they have one of the best mascots, the Ragin' Cajuns. I mean, that's awesome. University of Louisiana, because it was Louisiana Monroe and Louisiana Lafayette, and then they just went University of Louisiana, which even they probably still go, huh? But it's all good. Yeah, I kept thinking I had all these questions, but because of limited time, I was like, I wanted to focus on the site and the books and all that. I don't want to ask goofy stuff like, hey, as a motivational speaker, can you give a speech to my fantasy team? That sucks.
I did want to ask him about fantasy, but that's all right. I'll ask him.
Yeah, it's leave them wanting more, right? By the way, I made the transition to the chocolate milk stout.
Oh, yum.
I got to go to Nashville last weekend, as I mentioned earlier, for the first time in, since last football season? It's been a while. And it was very important. When I visit, usually I go to my parents' house and just sit on the couch and watch football and get fed lots of food and drink lots of wine and beer. But I had to venture out because, I've actually met some people in town. And my dad was the one when I got there was like, we're going to Hattie B's, right? We're going to Hattie B's. Get the hot chicken. And I was like,
that is funny.
Sure. And he took my mom, and my mom's
Now, was this your first time to Hattie B's?
I think this is my third.
Okay.
I had heard about Prince's, and I was going, I don't know, a couple years ago when I met Dave Kitchen, daily fantasy extraordinaire guy, and their hours were weird. Like they weren't open till like 3 o'clock, so I didn't get to go. But then, so I missed out. But then I went to Eddie B's, and yeah, because we got there at 12-ish, and we probably ate around 2. I mean, it was a long line. It was slow. And I don't think my mom was thrilled about the weight. And, my mom's super paying attention to what she eats because she's lost a lot of weight. I'm like, hey, just have a little bit of chicken. You'll be fine. And she even got the mild. The whole thing, like hot chicken, it really is hot. Like the first time I went there, I ordered the hot and I was sweating. And I backed off to the medium. I've accepted, my Caucasian background, whatever that is, and knowing that I can only handle so much. But yeah, we had the chicken, and then had to get to a local liquor store so I could pick up some of the Nashville beers because I was going to go to a brewery, but it just usually when I go to Nashville, I try to do a 2-night thing, but I'm a contractor at my job, so I have to be back. So it was a quick in and out kind of trip. So I got some little Blackstone Milk Stout action. So I can move to Nashville.
I'm drinking Blackstone too, but I'm drinking Nut Brown Ale.
What do they say? You are what you drink?
That's what they say. Sometimes you feel like a nut, sometimes you don't.
So this week, the fantasy tale of woe. So I, got to show off to my league mates, my local league mates. I'm actually in a fantasy football magazine this year. And after 2 weeks, I am dead last in the league in scoring. Lost Des Bryant week 1. I have no receivers to talk about. Quarterbacks are mediocre.
My receiver situation sucks.
I go into Monday night with Travis Kelce facing Aaron Rodgers and James Jones. And by the way, I had just traded James Jones to this guy 2 weeks ago. You know who I got back? Roddy. I am a corpse White. Sorry, Roddy White. Love you and all. But when you trade for a guy and he scores 0 points 2 weeks in a row, that's bad. So, yeah, I came into the night leading by 33, and I lost by 21. It's pretty bad.
That is bad.
And now I'm 0-3 in my keeper league. So
here's my woeful trade thing from this year. I don't even have Zach to blame for this. I had Ronnie Hillman and a guy in one of my my Flea Flicker Dynasty League, IDP Dynasty League, wanted him because he had CJ Anderson. I also own, let's see. Oh, I have Andre Ellington. I can't remember if I have David Johnson or not. Anyway, we went back and forth, and finally, he had actually proposed the trade to me, and I really sat down and looked at his roster, and we were having trouble figuring out exactly what value Ronnie Hillman was and what he had on his roster. Blah 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 blah. Anyway, I proposed a Ronnie Hillman for Chris Johnson trade, and then, like an idiot, said, I don't know if that's enough. I'll take Marcus Wheaton.
Wow.
So I suck.
Well, yeah, the first trade, basically in our league, we have limits.
This was before Ben went out, though.
Yeah. But because we have position limits, we have to have 4 receivers, 4 running backs. If you trade, like I was going to trade basically Austin Seferian-Jenkins for a receiver, but I was like, well, I have to give him a receiver back and get a tight end back. And, of course, the receiver I gave him was James Jones. I wanted to give him Cole Beasley, and, yeah, it went badly. And then we traded because he had 2 injured running backs. I got Tevin Coleman and traded him Isaiah Crowell. But now it looks like Tevin Coleman may have lost that starting job due to injuries. Thanks to Devonta Freeman, who all hair and ass, I believe that's what Cecil Lamby calls him. Yeah, 3 touchdowns, not bad.
I own quite a bit of Tevin Coleman too, and so I'm going to cry in my beer as well. I went into I had 2 games still on, 1 game on the line, and another, I was playing Liz at NFL Female in one of my NFL Female leagues. I was playing Sonia in another. I was comfortably ahead in one, but Sonia and I were neck and neck. I needed like 0.32 points or something like that. And I had Devontae Adams and Jeremy Maclin.
Ooh. Well, you got Macklin at least.
Finally, I was sweating though. He wasn't even being he didn't even get a target until I think he had one catch before he caught that touchdown. But that one catch put me over though. That's all I needed. So I was, I was excited. I was like, "Oh, I won!"
I do want to point out that Pat Thorman, who has a nice picture of Hunter Thompson throwing a football as his avatar. By the way, you're the only person who's lost to me this year in fantasy football. I am 1-8 in my 3 leagues where I set lineups, and I beat him this week in the Scott Fish Bowl, which is good because I felt like I had a high-scoring losing team, but at least now I won, one game. But I made a joke based on how badly I was doing. I was like, I could have a lead on Monday night against a team with no players and somehow lose. That's how I felt so far this year. But at least I eked out a victory. But now we have to proceed into the treacherous waters of bye weeks.
And the treacherous waters of Jeremy Hill is sucking it up. What do you do? And I'm sitting him.
Yeah,
I just released. I no longer own it where I can. I've released Andre Johnson. I've moved on. Torrey Smith, Anquan Bolden. I'm going to release Vernon Davis too.
Well, somebody actually asked me in a half PPR if they would drop Andre Johnson for Antonio Andrews, and I was just like, well, this is the Titans running game where a new running back every week, T-Rack's going to come in there and lead the team in carries next time they play because they just switch it around. And by the way, David Cobb will come back, and he'll probably be the guy for a week or two. Mm-hmm. So the Titans, we're so used to them having that one guy, and now they rotate. I'm pretty sure Bishop Sankey was the 4th running back to touch the ball on Sunday. I mean, it's where he is. So if you got that one good week out of him in week 1 where he had the 2 touchdowns, enjoy that because
congratulations.
That's probably the high point.
Did you say I lost to you?
Well, I haven't. I don't know if we're actually going to play because I think the leagues we're in together. We're in MFL 10s or the auction league.
Oh.
So I know we're not going to unless we meet in the playoffs in Scott Fish Bowl, baby.
Ooh. My Scott Fish Bowl team sucks.
I mean, at least, yeah, that's what I have to do after this show is dive into free agency. Because 2 of my leagues are Tuesday night and Scott Fish Bowl is Wednesday, so we'll see. I've actually I got Dion Lewis, which was nice, and of course with Marshawn Lynch getting hurt, I think someone may have grabbed Rawls. I think all the people who drafted Kristen Michael are all pissed because he got traded to the Cowboys and he'll probably never play for them. And he would have had a shot.
They're saying that we might see him this weekend.
I was wondering.
That's what they're saying. I'm keeping up. I'm paying attention.
I don't know. As long as Brandon Whedon is in there, get Lance Dunbar in your team. I think I'd let him go in my dynasty league. I'm so sad because he had a glorious 10 catches for 100 yards. I mean, for a running back, running backs are horribly scarce this year. I mean, I'm just glad that I have Frank Gore and Adrian Peterson. I knew going into the Titans game, it was a little weird because I was at the Titans game, but I also had the Colts defense and Frank Gore on my fantasy team. So I was sort of oh, wait, I shouldn't be cheering now. Huh, how about that?
Frank Gore scored a bunch of points on my bench.
By the way, I think I mentioned something about that. Carlos Hyde. Man, if you traded him after week 1, that would have really felt good, huh? He is. Wow.
He's doing better than Jeremy Hill, and my other options are not good. And also invested. And it wasn't a big investment, but I have Jet McKinnon, and Adrian Peterson is back, and so I still think that Teddy Bridgewater is sucking it up for me, and so it's I finally let's see, who else did I move on from yesterday? Sam Bradford. I waived him and picked up Tyrod Taylor. I already had, I had Sam Bradford, and I had who? Was it Cam in my backup? Was my backup? Anyway, I don't remember, but yeah, I mean.
I heard Cam. that's awesome. Now he's usually the longer you go in your career as a quarterback, you don't run as much. But I saw a stat that said that Cam Newton's like on pace for like 192 carries as a quarterback. Are you crazy?
Wow. It's nuts.
I think Mariota's on pace for like 5 carries all year. I mean, it's amazing how he's a pocket quarterback, and sometimes to his detriment, he hasn't quite figured out the whole throw it away. Although he had one very good throwaway at the goal line where he threw it out of bounds so far that someone in the first stands actually caught the ball. So nice arm there, Mariota.
So explain, why is Zach Brown mad, and why are people mad at him, and what's up there?
I have no idea what's good. He had an interception and he should have scored. He basically got an interception, was coming back, and Andrew Luck was being blocked, and for some reason Zach Brown cut right into the guy blocking Andrew Luck and got tackled, and they end up kicking a field goal in that drive. But I don't know why he's mad. I don't know. I kind of let the Titans go. The Titans were a test case for Missouri. You know, I really have definitely emotionally distanced myself from them because of how bad they've been. So them losing really doesn't affect me. Of course, it took me a while to actually care about Missouri for how bad they've been for decades. So for them getting back to mediocrity is probably okay for me emotionally. But yeah, it was a fun game.
Oh, it was close, you know.
I mean, think of it, there's so many runs to this game. Like, the Titans started horribly. Like, they went 3 and out in their first 3 drives, and they kicked the field goal to make it 14-3. And I'm like, oh, kicking a field goal against the Colts. But they scored 27 points in a row against the Colts. I mean, who would have predicted that? The only problem was in the fourth quarter, the Colts scored a touchdown with 6 minutes to go. Then Mariota threw an interception like 2 plays later. And then 3 and out, and all of a sudden they had scored 3 touchdowns in like 4.5 minutes of game time and 15 minutes of real time. And we were just like, what? But think about this crazy stat. So the Seahawks, the Bears, and the Lions have 4 offensive touchdowns this year. And the Titans had 4 offensive touchdowns on Sunday. Like, the Titans actually have a good offense. Is that weird or what?
Not bad. Not bad at all.
Although they did get shut down for about 3 quarters by a Browns team that has been getting crushed by everybody else. So maybe, maybe not yet.
The Colts defense is pretty bad.
Yeah. I mean, you basically got that pick 6 from them, and then they had an interception later in the game. And that was one of those things where, like, the receiver was open, and he saw him open, and he threw it. And by the time he put his arm back, he might not have been open anymore. But what are you going to do? I mean, Harry Douglas is starting for your team. I mean, come on. Delaney Walker can only do so much, right?
I did see Dorial Beckham-Green push off on that 1 touchdown. I was like,
yeah, that was crazy. Like, so you got Dorial Green-Beckham going against Vonta Davis, who's like, I don't know if he's an all-pro, but he's definitely considered one of the top cornerbacks in the game. And Dorial just pushed him down, and I think the ref was going to call. And I was surprised. Everybody was like, hey, how come the cornerback's just laying there in the ground? Of course he scored a touchdown. But hey, it's impressive. Your first 2 NFL catches are touchdowns, and he did catch a non-touchdown. And I think Justin Hunter got a catch. Way to go, UT. I know, you're like, eh. But the funniest, I don't know if this is the funniest moment, but I went to the game. I bought a University of Oregon T-shirt because I like to go to, like, secondhand stores and buy college T-shirts when I go to town. I went to the Northwest a few summers ago. So I wore the Oregon shirt because of Mariota, and I didn't really want to go over the top of my Titans gear. So a woman at the tailgate next to us basically looked at me and said, oh, I'm so sorry about your team. And I was like, what? I was like, oh, yeah, Oregon got their ass kicked the night before. Oregon lost by 42 points to Utah at home. And I don't think they had lost by more than a touchdown at home in like a decade. So I don't know what happened to them. Bad weekend to be tough.
Something else.
I don't know. After watching that lack of offense fest for Missouri,
Tennessee might beat Missouri this year. Who knows? They can't ever beat Florida, but.
Well, that was chatting with my best friend who's actually a professor at Missouri now. I asked him, so is there anybody on Missouri's schedule left that they can beat? And he's like, maybe Tennessee. And I was like, oh, Sharona will love that. Didn't even say Vandy. Because you know what? Vandy is very similar to Kentucky. Not much offense, pretty good defense. I think a pretty good high school defense could shut Missouri down. But, hey, guess what? We're going to find out. We get to join the next level as Matty Mock, Missouri starting quarterback, who is exactly the same quarterback he was as a freshman, has not grown at all, got suspended by the team. So
do we know why yet? He and somebody else.
You know, in college, I think you can shut the media down a little more than you can in the NFL, unless you're John Fox in Chicago. So it's basically like they made a statement. He was suspended, a backup tackle was suspended, and we're not saying jack shit about it. Matty Mock, as a freshman, got arrested for a hit and run on a scooter with two co-eds clinging on to him. So he's had some history, and you wonder with some of these college guys, like, if you're a starter, if you're a star, maybe there's some things you get away with. But he hasn't exactly dominated, although, let's be fair, they don't have any receivers who can actually legally drink, so that there's a bit of an issue there. So, yeah, it's going to be true freshman.
We give you some of ours. We don't use them.
True freshman Drew Lock, who was born the year after I graduated from college.
Hey, trade. We'll take some of your defensive guys in a trade.
And, yeah, we'll see how he does, because I think South Carolina's in a similar situation. Like, they started a true freshman last week, so both teams are kind of in rebuilding mode, even though South Carolina has a kind of old coach. But we'll see. So, yeah, in a week, Missouri went from let's challenge for three-time SEC East champion to who can we beat to get into a crappy bowl game? So, yeah. And Tennessee fans are like, well, we know the good places to eat at those crappy bowls, so hit us up. I don't know if you guys have ever done the Birmingham. Where was it last year? It was Charlotte, right? Or wait, no, it was Gainesville,
I don't
right?
remember. I remember.
They won a game in Gainesville. It was a bowl, but it wasn't Florida.
Now, granted, I was sick. I had the flu or something. But back when UT went, I think like back-to-back years, they went to a bowl in Atlanta. Was it the Citrus Bowl? Is that where it's? Anyway, they went to back-to-back bowls down there and got their ass kicked both times. And I had free tickets, a free ride to go, and said, the first time I was sick, and the second time I was like, I saw how they played last time, and they lost again. So, Such is the life of a Tennessee Volunteer fan.
Yeah, I have much to learn from you. So here we go. I saw a tweet this week.
Are we doing over it this week?
Right after this.
Okay.
A woman tweeted, "How many self-defense classes do I need before I can date an NFL player?" No,
all
yes, maybe. All of them. Well, I only have 3 under my over it or nah, but we'll do it. So it's hashtag over it or hashtag nah.
Okay.
First one, just give Wiz time.
Over it.
Titans break sellout streak.
Over it. I mean, they've never. Anyway, over it.
Paying $8 for a Bud Light at the stadium.
Over it.
There was a guy in the row
You had
behind
me
us.
paying for Bud Light.
At the third quarter, he volunteered to buy a beer for everybody in his row. So he spent like $48 on like a 6-pack of 16-ounce sitting in the sun aluminum bottles of Bud Light. Yeah. I got like, what was it, pork nachos I had to eat, which is basically pork with like fake cheese and jalapenos.
Yeah.
And,
it sounds gross.
Yeah.
So they don't have Logan's anymore. That's gone.
I think they do. I don't know. We don't eat food beforehand, so I'd eat something. Yeah.
And they had decent corn dogs. That was the only thing that I typically would ever eat there.
Corn dogs.
But I know they changed it, and I haven't been back, so I don't know.
And I saw that the NFLPA bought into, I couldn't tell if it was DraftKings or FanDuel. It's really hard to tell these days because they're basically
it was DraftKings.
They're alternating commercials.
They're going to do it with everybody. They're going to have licensing deals with everybody because it's going to be a big deal soon.
I think it is a big deal. I mean, in previous years, it's kind of funny because Josh Gunnell's like his mom's like a big football fan, so like previous years she's actually asked me like who to put in her team or what moves to make. But this year, if anybody knows that you do fantasy football stuff, they actually ask you about daily. Like that's the only question. People who don't know anything about football are like, "What's this daily fantasy thing?" So it's very popular. I haven't played this year, even though I've heard of all these new sites. I don't know. I think it's enough with the teams I have right now. I can't dip in anymore. Or maybe I should just, know that we only have like 14 weeks left, right? It's getting, time's running out.
Tick tock, tick tock.
Tis the truth. Tis the truth. So where were you during the Tennessee meltdowns on Saturday and Sunday?
I was watching it from home. Mostly in my bedroom where nobody could hear me.
Scream.
Yeah, that too.
Well, one of these years, Tennessee football game.
It's just never going to happen, and I'm over it.
Hashtag over it.
Hashtag over it. I was over Butch Jones for several days. I mean, as Emory and I were saying, or as I was telling you, he's not getting fired. They just signed him to an extension.
Yeah, I just thought whatever his buyout is got reset, whatever that means. So
I think it's like $4.25 million. I have no idea what they're still paying for buyouts. I know they're still paying.
I know Dooley's still on. I think the Lane train quit, right? And what happened with all that? So Lane Kiffin, there are all these rumors about him and like a booster's wife, and that just disappeared. So.
And then it started with a booster's wife, and then it turned to Nick Saban's daughter. So I don't know.
Gosh.
It was fun. I'm not over that. Let's start more.
You're not over that one?
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, I could see why you don't like that guy. Well, I'm pretty sure Dooley is still like the wide receiver coach in Dallas, so he was able to double dip.
Got hurt.
He's like, if I get another job at college, and I don't get all the Tennessee money, but if I go to the NFL, I get all the monies. Aren't they still paying? Who was your coach who won the national title? I can't remember his name right now. I don't think they're still paying. Yeah, is Fulmer still on the payroll?
No, he's been gone for 10 years.
That's good. Mm-hmm. If you're only paying off like one coach, I feel like it's good. It's good work.
Well, that's just football. They're still probably paying. I don't know what. I don't know what happened with Donnie Tyndall. They probably didn't have to buy him out. I don't know about Bruce Pearl. Yeah, because of the NCAA stuff. And then Quanzo left voluntarily, so they're probably not having to pay him anything. Well, you see where I'm going here. There might be a pattern here.
It's been a bit of a rough patch.
I've started the Peyton Manning back to Tennessee as AD rumor.
Why would he do that?
Because I want him to.
I mean, he'd be a great figurehead, but I still think in 5 years.
All he's got to do is raise money and, occasionally possibly not fuck up a hiring decision. How hard is that?
Peyton
He'd be good at that. Kids would flock to Tennessee because Peyton Manning, they know Peyton Manning. It's brilliant, and I totally claim credit for it.
He's going to be able to rise his own ticket. I mean, I've heard plenty of rumors about him getting a ownership stake in the Titans. Honestly, I think that should have been part of their plea to get him to the Titans, is just offer him a percentage of the team.
No, they couldn't, though. You can't do that.
Oh, come on. You can do anything.
Those little things called legalities.
Well, lawyer people, you just ruin all the fun.
No,
seriously,
right?
Without you, we'd be just freewheeling. It'd be glorious freewheeling. Oddly enough, despite the fact that it's a bye week, I will be back in Tennessee this weekend.
Huh?
Going to the Ryman to see Brandy Carlisle.
Oh, fun.
And perhaps going back to Henny B's, we shall see. Or Neighbors, I haven't been there in a while. There's a lot of good food choices.
Nashville's got a nice, thriving food, brewery, scene.
And this weekend, we have the, not only do bye weeks start, but we have the odd London, 9 a.m. kickoff.
Yeah.
With the Dolphins and the Jets.
Jets.
Now, I would avoid the game because of the teams, but do you think when it comes to the London game, you just I am going to avoid these players?
No, because I'm desperate and I need Bilal Powell to continue to, do good. And I really, really need Eric Decker to come back. Although I had Torrey Smith and I dumped him. I think I picked up Rashard Matthews.
Torrey. Yeah, I've had a 3-year period of had really bad receivers on my dynasty team, and now my running backs are horrible. DeMarco Murray, C.J. Anderson, Joey Bell. I think Bilal Powell was my highest scoring running back last week, and I almost cut him.
You did all right.
You got double digits, baby.
I mean, when Jeremy Hill gets you 2.11 points.
Jeremy Hill, oh boy! Actually,
he was on my He was on my hashtag over it list on Monday. I can tell you that.
I bet. Yeah, that's the thing. Even though my receivers suck in my local keeper league, there are always guys every week you can get who can score you double digits. But running back is just putrid. I mean, there are maybe 10 guys. I think last year we were kind of oh, remember all the crappy 3rd and 4th rounders? And then this year we had another crop of them. I mean, who was all excited about C.J. Spiller and C.J.? Anybody named C.J.? Avoid them next year. I mean, Andre Ellington's hurt. Tevin Coleman's hurt. He was a mid-round pick. I mean, there's not much goodness. Somebody still believes in Bishop Sankey? Oh.
I don't. I might have Bishop Sankey in one best ball league, maybe. I don't know. I don't own any C.J. Spiller. None. Pardon me. I think we've talked about all the guys that have been on my team that are sucking.
Yeah, I'm not.
Vernon Davis, did I mention him? Oh, Kyle Rudolph. I dropped him too.
God. This week I
dropped Teddy Bridgewater. I dropped Charles Johnson.
Oh yeah, Charles Johnson. Because I got him off waivers. I think when he was with the Browns in my dynasty league, I'm I got a receiver, and now he sucks. That's so sad. Well, I mean, I guess when you have Adrian Peterson, you just don't need to throw the ball, right?
I guess.
So yeah.
Hashtag over it.
Sharona, you're not overdoing your show, are you? We've been getting on your shows.
Oh, well, it was definitely a exciting but exhausting week. And let's see, on Monday, I had Reed Carringer from Football Time in Tennessee and Rocky Top Insider on. We talked about Tennessee, Florida, of course. He was very kind enough to come on my show and let me rant about Butch Jones and all of that. Let's see, I had Jessica Luther back, who's always awesome.
Oh, Jessica Luther, yeah.
Yeah, we need to get Jennifer Eakins on here, by the way.
Okay.
Jennifer she's criminally underfollowed. She comes on my podcast regularly, and she tipped me off early on to the fact that the Denver Broncos defense was going to be good, and so it was one of the few defenses that I drafted. Anyway, great decision. I also have Danny Trevathan in my IDP league. So, yeah, I had her on, and then let's see, who else? Oh, I had Matthew Friedman from RotoViz on to talk about fantasy football. And then this morning I had Aaron Nagler. I think I mentioned that already. I was so excited. I couldn't sleep last night, and I was so fangirling, obviously from FanDuel. And a big Packers guy. You guys know I'm a Packers fan. And, Emory was on, and then I had Nick Simmons on, talk about NBA and college hoops from the Give and Go. And And Adam Barlow. Great. We need to have him on this show. He is the host of the worldwide women's football show. He is from Nottinghamshire, England, and is a big soccer guy. And we talked rugby. We talked about a lot of different things. So he was great. It was very, very, very interesting. And they've had a lot of big names from the United States women's national team on there, and some great guests from women who play rugby and soccer overseas too. So that was really cool, and we got to talk about how England is embracing the National Football League. He thinks that we're still 5 or 6 years away from the NFL being able to viably plant a team over there.
Yeah, that would be a tough thing to do just because of road trips and all that. And it's like, why don't you bring back NFL Europe? But I don't think that's happening.
No.
The NFL's like, we got college football. We don't need a minor league feeder system. Although maybe they do. I heard people talking about the LSU running back, Fournette, about him just taking a year off because he's ready for the NFL right now. For running backs, there aren't many. Like, I think Adrian Peterson probably could have come in at 18. I think Herschel Walker could have played in the NFL at 18, but not
Jackson.
many. Well, Bo, yeah. Yeah, I know.
Poor Bo got screwed so badly.
Some interesting sophomores like Nick Chubb from Georgia. Dang, I got him for another year. He's going to break some Herschel Walker numbers. So, all good. I'm talking all this stuff because I've been up to Jack Squad. I have been just talking to you and tweeting a lot and kind of enjoying it. I haven't been posting really at all on my site. I've just kind of let it slide this year. It's been fun. Well, except for my fantasy teams being terrible. But other than that, I can enjoy that because I get beer. That's the equalizer, as I say. Well, Sharona, it's been another lovely show. I'm glad you came on here, and we actually drank the same beer for the first time, so that's nice.
I know. And
thanks to Emory being on. I saw him tweet and included the Blackstone. I thought, wow, he actually tweeted the beer. It's like, oh, he's just you posted that. So
I did. I tweeted the beer.
I like tweeting breweries. It's fun because they're usually pretty good people as well.
They're very good people, and they should sponsor us.
Somebody needs to.
We drink a lot of their stuff, and we advertise it.
Well, it's all good stuff. Drink what you like and enjoy it all. Just don't drink Bud Light or PBR. But anyway. So for Sharona, I'll say Sports by Sharona on the Twitters. Follow her because she tweets 3 times as much as me with 7 times the actual content. And I'm Zach_Law, and that's on Twitter. And I will be retweeting all the cool people who post all the content because it just makes me tired to even think about it. So we want to say good night and kiss my grits.
Night.